3 weeks and 2 days away from free agency, and I think everybody's eyes are on the same thing. Are the Bears going to make a splash this year? Are we really going to go all in on a player? Are we going to take a run at Trey Smith? Is there another player out there that we can take a run at and use some of this salary cap that we have to build this roster properly in the right direction this year? We've got the combine before that, but then you've got free agency. A lot of things need to come together for this team, especially with the offensive and defensive lines needing so much retooling. Other positional groups, like the safety group, nobody's under contract past 2025. Will there be something done to address that? Other groups like the linebacker core, very underperforming from what was expected from them when these contracts were signed, especially one of Ryan Poles' first big moves with Tremaine Edmunds. Did he make the right move? Has Tremaine Edmunds done enough? So one of the big things you see going around Bears Twitter, around Bears social media, around Bears rumor mill, is the Bears could restructure Tremaine Edmunds' contract to make it so there's more cap space this year to go after some of those big fish. Maybe get Josh Sweat, free agent defensive end. Maybe get Milton Williams. Maybe go out and get Trey Smith. Who knows? But is that the right move to make? You can see on the right side there, Tremaine Edmunds is the third highest paid linebacker in all of football. 27 years old, so he's still got some youth under his belt, but he's getting paid an average of $18 million a year. That was a 4-year, $72 million contract that the Bears signed with him over 2 seasons ago. So he's played 2 seasons into that contract. He's got 2 left. You look at some of these other guys. Maybe Matt Milano hasn't quite lived up to his either, but he's not being paid nearly as much. There's a gap there between $18 million and these ones at 14 on down. So Roquan Smith, Fred Warner, definitely playing up to their contracts. I think everybody would consensus say that. Tremaine Edmunds was one of the youngest players to come into the league at 20 years old. A lot of potential. Is it a scheme change for the Bears? He's obviously got a lot of length. He's got a lot of speed. He's got a lot of power. Are they using him properly? Is he being used improperly? Those are some of the things that Dennis Allen is going to have to address and answer with Ben Johnson. They're going to have to discuss and figure out. But if you're going to extend someone, which is essentially what that means when you're restructuring their contract, because right now, Tremaine Edmunds is under contract this next year for $17 million of cap hit. The next year after that, $17 million of cap hit. So you can see they loaded it with a light first year, heavier second year. But the dead cap on each of those years is very different. If we cut him this year, we'll have $13 million in dead cap. Now, we could trade him. I have a hard time believing with the record he's had for the last couple of years, with the play he's had, that he's going to really give you any trade value in that scenario, or there may not be a trade partner at all. But if you cut him next year, you're going to save $15 million and only have $2.5 million in dead cap. So this year, the hit is heavy. Next year, very light compared to his contract. You could save $15 million of that contract next year. You can see a lot of that's built into roster bonuses and workout bonuses. This is how they build some of those signing bonuses in there. So the roster bonuses are really eaten up on those first couple years. Base salary, much less expensive, but some of those bonuses built in there. And then the next year, that base salary built up, but more bonuses to take the hit off of there. We knew we'd keep him at least 2 years. 3 years, it appears, Ryan Poles was planning on at least the 3rd year with an out on the 4th year. And this really gives credit to the genius of Ryan Poles. A lot of these contracts he was doing in a rebuild had outs for that final year. If this player works out, I don't want to have all that dead cap on my hands year after year after year. Well, so far, Tremaine Edmunds has not lived up to the bill. You can see his record here of how he's done. You see that 2022 year with the Bills was kind of his breakout year. Overall defensive grade of 79. Coverage grade of 88.1. So really had kind of his breakout year. Doesn't tell the whole. This is pressure and tackling up here in this area. This is coverage grade down here in this area down here. So while he had that decent year as a linebacker down here, total pressures, not a huge thing for him, but tackling, 90, 101 there, 111 there, 106 there. But his grades overall, not nearly as impressive these last couple of years as they have been before. You can see in coverage that he's letting a lot of things up that he wouldn't normally. He had 4 interceptions the year before this year. First year as a Bear, that was nice. Only 1 this last year. No touchdowns allowed last year, though. So there's a mixed bag of results for Tremaine Edmunds. And if you look where he ranks in the league, Zach Bond was the number 1 rated last year. Bobby Wagner, Fred Warner. None of these are shockers. Edgerrin Cooper ended up being a great draft pick for the Packers. Leo Chanel. Go on down here. Then there's ... all the way down to 46 is TJ Edwards, our highest rated one. ... Tremaine Edmunds, 52nd rated overall and the 3rd highest paid linebacker. I think everybody would agree he's not lived up to that contract yet. Well, we know where it sits this year. We know where his salary cap is. So a lot of people might say, well, let's restructure this thing so there's less of that cap hit, because you know you can do that by taking some of those signing bonuses and some of those bonuses off of there, and we can take some off of this year. But when you do that, when you move the salary cap around, you're pushing it to future years. So you've got your guarantees here, and you can see he's only got $13 million left there of his guarantee there. But most of that hits this year. So if it doesn't work out next year, you can cut him without a lot of repercussions. You adjust this roster, you adjust this contract. If you restructure it, you're going to have to push some of that dead cap, some of that salary cap from this year to next year. So that's $17 million. Look at the first 2 years, 23, 24. You're essentially doing the same thing. If you take, say, $5 million of this off of 17, that means next year's going to be 22. Now, you could make it so only 7.5 of that is dead cap. I don't see him agreeing to anything more than that. And you could build in some incentive bonuses to make it worth it for him. But you're still going to have more dead cap next year if he doesn't pan out. Now, typically teams only do this when they know they've got their guy. When you restructure a contract, it's because you want him here long term. It's because you want him to be a part of your team. I don't think Ryan Poles and the Bears are sold on Tremaine Edmunds yet being a part of the future of this team, especially when you see rookies like Edgerrin Cooper come in last year and a decent rookie class this year at linebacker. Not phenomenal. I'm not trying to say that's a highlight of this draft class, but there's a couple good players in there. And then next year there's some decent players as well. Might be the right time to move on from Tremaine Edmunds. For an example here, though, here is Nick Bosa with the Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa, there's rumors that Nick Bosa could get traded to the Chargers, so the brothers would be together. But either way, so here's his contract. He signed at the end of his rookie. He got an extension, so a rookie extension, 5-year, $135 million, average of $27 million a year, and a little bit backloaded on it with the salary cap situation the Chargers are in. They took less salary cap hit up front and put more at the end of it, and that's very typical. So you can see there's 2 years left on it at 24-25. And they still had salary cap hit of $62,500,000 left on it. So an average of $31 million when the average of the contract was originally 27. They averaged it out because they pushed more to the end of it. Now they restructured it to make it so there's less cap hit, or so there's less in the now, so they can continue to make moves with Justin Herbert. But then they still had to get rid of, they ended up having to get away from Keenan Allen. They had to get rid of some of that cap hit. So that's where you start getting yourself into salary cap trouble, is when you start pushing some of these contracts out. Now, the Bears are not anywhere in salary cap trouble. Really good, 0 issues with their cap space. 2.5 dead cap, and that's usually from some of your rookies you cut and let go of. Very minimal cap hit right now. So could the Bears do it? Yes. But just like this extension, so here was the 2020 to 2025 rookie extension they did with Bosa. Well, they restructured it last year so that it would have less impact on this year and more on next year. It didn't quite work panning out for them, so now they've got a huge hit this year on their cap. They're comfortable doing that because Bosa is going to be here for 2025 for them. No shot, no change. That's not changing. Well, Tremaine Edmunds is not guaranteed to be here next year. When you look at where he ranks among linebackers this last year, very below average grade. And then historically, he hasn't lived up to his contract either. We signed him here. We wanted to have the most out of him, but those grades for a 3rd highest paid linebacker is not paying off so far. Again, is it his fault? Is it the scheming? I would have to assume the Bears are going to run into this season with an opportunity to see what they have in Tremaine Edmunds. There's several guys that could be on, even though it's not the final year of his contract, can be on contract years. Braxton Jones, we know, is on a contract year. Tremaine Edmunds is basically on a contract year. He's got to prove himself if he wants the last year of that contract. Because otherwise, saving $15 million is huge when right now he's not living up to the third highest contract, and $15 million would be enough to go after one of the highest free agent linebackers. It would be the fourth highest contract for $15 million. So even though we'd hit a cap hit of $2.5 million, we'd save $15 million. That's enough to go out and get one of the best linebackers in the entire league. So this is where our linebacker core stands right now. You've got Tremaine Edmunds and T.J. Edwards. T.J. Edwards isn't going anywhere. He's got cap we could save there by cutting him, but he's lived up more to his contract. Noah Sewell's not really panning out, so there might be more on the books this year for linebacker. Restructuring him, I understand why people are suggesting it and putting it out there. I just don't think the Bears are in a position to say, yep, we're committed to you for the next 2 years. Having the out right here next year in the release or trade, same value either one, having that out is more valuable than restructuring that contract with where the Bears are at salary cap, in my opinion. So just so you guys can see where that dead cap comes from, it's in these bonuses that were promised in the beginning. So that $2.437,500, that's there. If you cut him this year, you got 2 years of that essentially, plus a workout bonus. There's other bonuses, but plus the workout bonus forthcoming too. So that's where those dead numbers come from, is when you build those bonuses, when you signing bonus, workout bonus, roster bonus. That's where those dead numbers come from. The base salary is typically, it's not what your cap hit comes from. It's from these bonuses. So they can restructure some of that base into bonus, and that's what makes it possible. But do the Bears really want to do that into next year, where they have an out and $15 million would get you one of the best linebackers on the market? That would get you a Zach Bond this year. I mean, Zach Bond will probably make Tremaine Edmunds money at $17 million. That $15 million would get you Zach Bond. Would you rather have Zach Bond or Tremaine Edmunds? So do you really want to extend Tremaine Edmunds is the big question when it comes to talking about the salary cap and extending him or restructuring his contract. Restructuring in this scenario is the same as basically extending him next year, whereas you can think of it as this year is more of a prove it, a contract year. He's on the last year of his contract. It's a sucky contract. It sucks that we have it. Wish we could get Zach Bond. That would be a lot more advantageous with the way Bond played last year. But you kind of got to prove it year here for Dennis Allen to see if he can use the length, speed, athleticism of Tremaine Edmunds and see what he can pull out this year. And I for one, I believe Tremaine Edmunds will have a better year than he had last year. I believe that he will do better in Dennis Allen's defense, and that as we improve the defensive line, things will get better. It's just a personal feeling, though. There's no basis to prove that. But I think he'll have a better prove-it year. Will it be enough not to cut him next year? I don't know. That's when you'll have the conversation of restructuring it. Hey, Tremaine, we can either cut you or we can restructure this thing, and you will make we'll extend you for 2 more years, and you'll make $12 million a year instead of $17 million a year, and we'll make half of that guaranteed. So that's kind of how it works as you're putting your GM cap on. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are, though. I don't think many people, once they understand the basis of how that extension really works or that restructure works, I don't think a lot of people will want to restructure. I think they're just trying to come up with creative ways to find money, and so it's easy to throw that out there and say, we could restructure this contract because the salary cap is so moldable. And, well, that's true. I mean, there's some truth to that. We can do it. Does it make sense? Not in my opinion. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you haven't hit the like button, please do so. If you haven't subscribed, please do that as well. I always appreciate you guys tuning in. Till next time, the Bears, and bear down.